Hi, wonderful awakening beings and spiritual souls. Jo Rose of jorose.com, numerologist and energy forecaster. In this video, I'm continuing on with the topic mental health. In my previous video, I shared with you some insightful information about the industry here in the UK and the positive aspects of numerology regarding the word mental health. In this video, I want to just move on, understand a little bit more about what causes mental health challenges in the body and the negative side of the numerology. Because all numbers have a positive and negative, everything, electricity has a positive and negative, us and the earth has positive and negative. They're there for a reason and we need to learn to balance them. Now, I shared in my previous video that 300,000 people per year in the UK leave work early before retirement due to mental health challenges. And the NHS is spending £99 billion a year on this topic. They created a 6-point paper that states, one of the points state that there's no health without mental well-being. No health without mental well-being. So what does that mean? Mental well-being or mental health is not all about mental. It's about physical pain, emotional distress, mental challenges, and spiritual depletion. If we are not aligning these 4 parts of our energetic system, we're out of alignment. Now let's just look and understand the body. What happens when we start to get ill? Well, before most illnesses, there will have been a trigger, a stress trigger. And the stress trigger releases a stress hormone. When the stress hormone is released, it alters what's going on in the body. What happens is when the stress hormone kicks in, it sends the flow of the blood to the peripheral area of our body, to our arms and to our legs. Why? The arms so that we can fight and the legs so that we can run. Because years ago, caveman days, we would have either been running from the saber-toothed tiger or the woolly mammoth, or we would be fighting it because we were hungry and we needed to survive, we needed food. So it would go to the peripheral. What also would happen was it would take the blood flow from the front part of the brain, the conscious part of the brain, to the reactive reflex part of the brain. Now what happens when that happens is we're no longer capable of making intellectual decisions. So what gets us in modern day worlds stressed? For me, I've found this year so far to be one of my challenging years. Back in March, my dad fell, got a bleed on the brain, and unfortunately passed away within days. At the same time, my mum grew sick. She later ends up in cardio attached to a heart monitor for 12 days. Now, when she was released, they said her heart was good, it was healthy. But that was not the cause, that was the effect. While I was visiting my mum in hospital, I pranged into the back of a car. We were stationary in traffic, my foot slipped and I moved 18 inches forward. I got out, totally apologised to the lady in the car in front. There was no damage to the car, no damage to humans, neither of us were hurt. I did not pull over because time was telling me I only had so long to visit my mum in the hospital, because in cardio you couldn't arrive late and have an extension. It was that time. Time is a big stress. Money's a big stress. Relationships are a big stress. Worry. We worry about everything. A week later, I got a letter from my insurance company and I panicked. Why was there a letter from my insurance company? It arrived I found it in the evening, couldn't do anything. And I got myself really stressed about what the outcome was going to be. Isn't it interesting that if we bump into somebody as we're outside walking, we say sorry, we rub the hurt off, we move along. But if there's chance to get money or our car's been damaged, then we'll go and fight a claim. I was really stressed that night and I couldn't sleep. And even though I had recently shot that video about, worrying if you can sort it, then deal with it, and if you can't, let it go, for some reason, I couldn't do this. This was added to a day that I'd gone to see a consultant that I'd waited over a year for an appointment for my health. I have got a list of autoimmune challenges and I've had operations that were there to help me, but they've actually traumatized my body. And this was one appointment that I was waiting for to discuss. And the consultant happened to be a consultant I'd seen before. And I said to him, I've been here before and you couldn't help me last time. And yet I found my own solution in a different hospital. And he washed his hands of that. And then he sat there and said he couldn't help me with this problem. He didn't check my body. He didn't look for signs. He didn't have empathy or bedside manner. He just dismissed me as if I wasn't worthy of his time. His mobile phone went off 5 times in our session. And that was building up my stress. Opening that letter that night, my body then took a dive and I got so sick, so poorly, that I couldn't do any work or create another video. I developed a cough and my 3rd cold sore in 4 weeks. And when I understand the cough is about getting things off my chest and the cold sore is blistering words festering in my mouth, I'm not surprised that I was stressed. I got fevers and chills, and for however many days, it was over 2 weeks, I could barely do anything. But in this time, I observed my well-being, and it wasn't well. I observed how I allowed the stress. I watched it move in. I gave it free place, rent-free in my body, and I watched it just expand and take over. If the blood is going to the peripheral, it's not dealing with the visceral. We need to be in growth at all times for our well-being. However, stress takes us into dis-ease or disease. The body has various viruses and bacteria in it, and we have the ability to create any chronic illness within ourselves if we feed those cells. So when we're in stress mode, and society puts us in stress mode, no longer do we go and hunt a woolly mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger or run from it, but the body understands about stress. So it fires off these hormones that closes down the visceral system that is renewing cells, repairing and cleaning, and it moves to the external, the lack of intellect, the fight or flight. We become very much reactive, poor me, the victim, and we end up in the mental health system. What happens then is we either go further down into depression, or we find ways to come out. If our environment is supportive, it's easier to come out. And as I explained in my last video, in an indigenous tribe, if somebody was classed as a mental health patient, people would come together and support them into wellness, because they know now they've got a great healer in the making. In the last video, I shared the positive, and I'll leave the link below for you to go and check that video out. In this video, numerology-wise, I want to share the negative of the numbers. Why is it that, just before I do, but why is it that mental health is on the rise? You know, when we think about 9/11, when we think about Donald Trump and the walls and the fence between Canada and Mexico, when we think about the UK, Europe and Brexit, this is a lot of stress. Social media and the news are feeding stress constantly. Mortgages are hard to get. House prices are going down or house prices are going up. Cost of living is inflating. Income is deflating. I've got the wrong skin colour, the wrong hairstyle, the wrong body shape. I'm in the wrong relationship, the wrong career. I could do better. Everything out there is drumming it into us that we're not enough, that we're not good enough, that we're not lovable, likable, profitable, valuable, or appreciated. In relationships, we are depleted because we've learnt to become codependent, and we're looking externally for other people to validate who we are, when really we should be validating who we are. So looking what happens when stress comes in, it moves us into disease. Stress is moving us away from well-being and into this disease. The blood has gone to the external parts, the periphery of the body, and not working with repairing and healing. And this is what we need to do. When I discovered numerology and I understood my own personal guidebook, the map of me, I realised that where I was attempting to fit in and belong in society was taking me away from my spiritual being. And that's when my health started to deteriorate. When none of the cognitive behaviours or the pills were helping me, I realised I had to change. Now it's interesting, the stress is on the rise, and so is the profit of the pharmaceutical industry. Year on year, 20, 30, 40, 100% profit they're making, and they're using social media to drive it. So what do you need to do to move away from stress? Because there's two things. Firstly, moving away from stress, and secondly, moving towards growth. So let's look at the numerology. I explained in my previous video about the 3 energy, and it's all about the joy of expression and really becoming inspirational and lighten up the world. But on the negative side, this 3 energy is very insecure, very scattered, very childlike and dependent, gossipy, dramatic. Think of actors and how they really get into their roles. It's attention seeking on the negative side. On the negative side of the 8, and this isn't just an 8, this is a 3, 5. So both these numbers are very dramatic, very melodrama. It needs variety, it becomes addictive, it's very drug orientated. I've already explained the 3 to you. The 8 in the positive is about personal empowerment, but in the negative, it's about disempowerment. In the negative, it's so prone to worry. Now, worry can often be work related. You bury yourself in your work, or you can't focus on your work, and work is getting affected. It's looking for reward and recognition. It's looking, like I said, attention seeking. It's looking for some authority to justify their well-being, to validate them. I remember somebody once saying to me, I paid £6,000 to go on a training course. And he looked at me and he said, Jo, don't look at me to validate you. You need to do that yourself. I was seething at the time, but 6 months later when the penny dropped, I realised he was so right. I just wish I'd got it a bit quicker than waiting 6 months to get this. So this 8 is about infinity. Look, you can turn anything around. Just look at giving yourself the reward and recognition. It's all about you are worthy of loving yourself. Moving on to here, the 4 is about systems, and the system has been failing you. The system you are following has been failing you. We were brought up to be seen, not heard. We were brought up to share everything with everybody else, but when were people going to share it back with us? It just wasn't happening. The 7 is about trust. You've lost trust. You've lost trust in your own intuition, your own insights, and you've lost trust in the system. And this is making you very self-conscious, very all about you. And not only is it making you want to find your individual, your uniqueness, but you don't trust it. And you end up becoming very alone. And from there, you become dependent, very codependent. The 2, 11, 2 is hypersensitive. And when you're very spiritual and awakened and enlightened, that allows you to see the energy. But when you are bogged down and pushed down with so many other things, you miss it and you become very poor me, very codependent. This can lead you to become very possessive, very jealous. You don't trust your relationships, you don't trust your work, you don't trust your own ability. And so if you play the negative side out, makes sense why you've got a mental health issue. So what do we need to do? We need to understand the positive side of the numbers. We can't move towards them until we understand the negative. And I've mentioned in the last video about the movie Inside Out, when sadness shows them the way. You must understand why you're feeling depressed, feeling sad, anxious, or angry, why your mood swings are changing. Something isn't in alignment with your well-being. So as you gradually understand this, you can move away from disease, let go of stress, and you move back to neutral. But neutral's not taking you back to where you need to be, which is in growth. What you need to do after you understand this is understand love, fun, and connection. You cannot love another till you love yourself. I've said it before, it's your life, L-Y-F-E. Love yourself first every day. When you do that and you take the positive aspect of these numbers, self-empowerment, expressing who you are, you begin to shine bigger, bolder, brighter and better. And when you shine bigger, bolder, brighter and better, you attract the things to that energy, the people, the job, the environment, the home. You need to let go of what's holding you back, what's causing you to be diseased. Because disease is about the body being diseased, not at ease. It is your life, and numerology has helped me understand mine. You have both positive and negative number aspects to your name and your date of birth. If you'd love a reading, get in touch. I do readings or consultations. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Press the bell to be notified on any further videos that I make. I do create series, and now that my throat is still a little bit croaky here, is on the mend, I will go back to my life path videos, telling you what you need to develop and release. Understanding this is the guidebook. Numerology is the map to your life, and don't expect it to happen overnight. People come to me, they want a reading. What is my mission? What is my purpose? Your purpose is simple. Is to live in alignment with your numbers, to remain away from disease and be in growth, to have fun, to enjoy, to experience. Just think about when you first fell in love, those experiences. You didn't need to eat or sleep. You were energized, because when your body is in that mode, it is repairing and it is reversing aging. If you want to move out of the mental health sector, then why don't you consider numerology as your next option? Your mission lies in this, and it's not necessarily about your career, although it could be about your career. You could make your career whatever your mission is. But what you really need to do is be in life, enjoying, embracing, and shining like a bright star that you are. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.